2, 1.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to PIMA's 2021 Futures Conference. I'm so glad to have you all here, and I'm very curious to find out how many of you are here. Normally, we would all be meeting in person at a hotel. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, we have switched to virtual format. So this is going to be quite different this year, but hopefully fun. So let me share my screen and let's get started. All right, so this is session 1 of our Futures Conference. We will be sharing other dates later today, and our focus for today is a mission fulfillment framework. And as we work through the different Futures Conference events, we will talk about different aspects of strategic planning as well. Now, for those of you familiar with Menti, please feel free to connect to that system now. There's a website and code across the top. If you're not familiar with Menti, don't worry, I'll get you set up in that system soon. Now, for our virtual setting, there are a few things I need you to be aware of today. Firstly, there is a 30-second delay between when I speak and when you hear that. And as you join and follow along with Menti, you'll find there's a slight offset between the slides that you see on YouTube and the slides you see in Menti. Don't worry about that. It's just a short delay, and we'll take our time as we go through the different topics because we want to make sure you have time to respond and give your input on the mission fulfillment framework. Also, perhaps most importantly, we have prizes today. One student attendee will win a 3 credit hour certificate provided by the PIMA Foundation, and one community member will win a $100 gift card. We will gather your names and contact information at the end of the event. So please hang around until the end so you can provide that information. And I should stress thank you to the PIMA Foundation for sponsoring this event and providing these prizes for attendees. And thank you for your support of this event in the past as well. We appreciate it. So with that little bit of setting, let me just review briefly our agenda. So we'll start with a little activity to get everybody connected to Menti. I see a few of you on the slides already. For those of you who are not, we'll take our time and make sure you can connect. Then we will hear some opening comments by Chancellor Lambert, and then we'll jump into our discussion about the mission fulfillment framework. So let's get everybody connected to Menti. So I need everybody to either open on your computers a different tab in your browser. You can grab your smartphone, you can use a tablet, whatever's most convenient for you. And please go to the address www.menti.com. And once you get there, please enter the access code 5050868. Those of you who are in the chat from the STAR team, if you could please drop that information in the chat as well, in case anybody needs it that way. But this address and this code will be across the top of every slide today. So you'll have that reference should you need it. And once you're connected, I have our initial icebreaking question. Are you excited about the event today? So what do you think? Yes, it will be the highlight of my week. Absolutely. There's no better way to spend a Friday morning. That would be my pick. Or ask me after my coffee. Now, of course, if we were together in a hotel, we'd all be enjoying breakfast right now and coffee and catching up around tables, which unfortunately we can't do, but hopefully you're all having a nice breakfast anyway, wherever you are. So let's see. All right. 80 responses so far. This is great. It's nice to know how many of you are out there. I can see one person at the moment, so this is great. And we'll hang out here as the responses come in until they start to slow down. So, all right, a lot of absolutes. That's great. Oh, a few people still working on their morning coffee. We're going to be asking you questions soon, so drink quickly, get perked up and ready to go. All right, we just crossed 100 people. All right, great. So I'm going to move along to our next question in here. But again, we'll spend a moment here so people can respond. And I'd like to invite you all to provide your primary affiliation. We've opened up the invitation to this fairly broadly, including students, community members, and internal stakeholders. So please go ahead and let us know who's here. And following on the numbers, and I should mention, while we're here and you're responding to this one, we often have members of our governing board in attendance at the Futures Conference. If any of you are here today, or if any former governing board members are here, thank you for attending today. Also, we occasionally have representatives from elected office, from other offices beyond the governing board. And if there are either elected officials here from other entities or members of their staff, thank you and welcome to the event. We appreciate you being here. All right, so you see I've got 102 responses. It's kind of slowing down. Okay, lots of staff, which is great. A few administrators. All right, let me move on to the next question. What do you think about this one? What is PCC's biggest strength? What stands out to you as our biggest positive as you think about the institution? Now, this is a different kind of response, so you get to kind of type this one in, and you'll be doing some of this for later questions as well. And it's always fun to see what people select when they fill this out. And a note I want to add about this as we talk about the college's biggest strength, and I mentioned this before and I'll mention it again at the end. We're reviewing the mission today, but as we move through the semester, we're engaged in our strategic planning year. And strategic planning is often looked at as a way to improve what isn't working, but really it's a way to take the strengths that we currently have as an institution and build on those to make ourselves better, more aligned with what this community needs from us. So let me see what kind of things do we have coming in. Great connections to students and teamwork, people, teachers, diversity, the students, absolutely the students. It's the reason we're here, right? Benefits, dedicated to our community. Excellent, lots of good ones coming in. Experience, knowledge, and history. For those of you who've joined me for Menti sessions in the past, I'm waiting for the robots to appear because they always seem to appear in these kinds of questions. So I'll keep my eye out for that. All right, great, thank you. Wonderful input on this. So let me move us along. All right. And so at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce Chancellor Lambert to share with us some opening comments to help set the scene as we embark on our discussion about the mission. Chancellor Lambert.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us this great Friday morning. And it's sunshiny, and hopefully it will warm up into the 70s as they have indicated in the news. So before I begin, I just want to acknowledge that today's event is taking place on the ancestral lands of the Tohono O'odham Nation and the Pasquiyaki Nations. Also, I'd just like us to just thank Dr. Nick Richmond, Dr. Anthony Sovak, the entire strategic planning team, and all the staff, faculty, and administrators who are involved in making today's event happen. So thank you. I thought I'd start out with the words of Pulitzer Prize winning journalist Jose Antonio Vargas. In a May 2019 interview with NPR, he shared the following. I want facts. I want context. I want opinions to be based from facts and context, the data, then the arguments. Well, what I'm going to guide us through here in the next few minutes is really looking at 4 trends and signals to pay attention. These are not the only trends to pay attention to, but I think they're important. I'm only going to touch on 3 and just certain facets of the 3. But there's another important one that we also pay attention to here at PIMA, and that's demographics and the reality of the shifts around demographics. And we might later on this morning be able to touch on that piece. So Nick, why don't we go ahead and move on to the next slide. So the first trend that I'd like for us to pay attention to is the question you see in front of you. Which state reduced higher education spending by the largest proportion between 2008 and 2017? Federal, as you all know, federal and state policy have significant impacts on our ability to deliver on our mission. Seems like very few people think it's any other state but Arizona. Let's see if the other states emerge here. Nick, we'll just give it another 30 seconds or a minute to allow everybody a chance to answer this question. So let me go ahead to the answer, and please keep responding. But I think it's very clear that the overwhelming majority believe it's the state of Arizona. So here's the interesting piece. Why don't we go to the next slide? In fact, Arizona was the state that cut higher education spending the most in the nation between that period of time, by over 50%. And as many of you are probably aware, Pima Community College and Maricopa Community College District were the first 2 community colleges in the state, I mean, not only in the state, but in the nation, to no longer receive state aid. Unfortunately, that reality still exists to present day. It's important that we not lose sight of this significance in terms of what Pima is able to deliver for our students and community as we go forward. Let's go on to the next slide, Nick. So another important area that we look at and pay attention to is what are the impacts of Industry 4.0 on the operations, our curriculum, et cetera, at the college. So please take a moment to provide a response. So, so as the responses are coming in, and thank you for replying, this was kind of a trick question that I wanted to throw out there for all of you, but at the same time, it's not a trick question. And it really represents a different way to think about what is happening in the larger context, not only here in Arizona, across the United States, but really across the globe. So we've thought for the longest time of superpowers in the context of nations. Why don't we go to the next slide, Nick, as people are still. So Pat Gesslinger, a few years back, he was the CEO of VMware, and now he has moved on, I believe, to be the CEO of Intel. He wrote an article where he talked about the 4 superpowers, but he said 4 superpowers aren't countries. They are the realities of what advanced technologies are doing for specifically mobile technology, cloud computing, the Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence. And I share this for you because these important drivers are really having an impact on higher education as much as they are having an impact on the rest of the economy as well. So at PIMA, we've been paying attention to this. I'll give you some examples. I'll use the healthcare arena to illustrate this. So a group of us went out to Cedars-Sinai to visit their the part of the hospital where they have a teaching and learning center. And while we were in there, I had the opportunity to put on the virtual reality glasses. And so they're using virtual reality to help keep people's skills current and relevant. And I had the good fortune to conduct hip surgery in virtual reality. And so I asked the person who assisted me in that a question: how will this technology replace clinical education or clinical rotations for our healthcare professionals? And he said to me, for every hour of virtual reality, we believe you can replace 5 hours of clinical. Think about the significance of that as we go forward. We also took a team up to Case Western Reserve, a leading university in the healthcare space. And we had the good fortune to put on the Microsoft HoloLens technology. And if you've not experienced Microsoft HoloLens, I highly recommend it. It was a powerful experience. You could be standing there and peering right before you is a 3-dimensional human body. You can see more aspects of the human body in virtual reality than you can in the ways we were teaching. You can reach into the body, pull out the heart. You can see all the nerve pieces. You can see the brain 360. I think you get the point that I'm illustrating here. We also had the good fortune to be invited to Apple headquarters, where while there on the iPad through augmented reality, we were able to see the same thing that we saw through the HoloLens technology. This is now. This is not the future. This is now. The question is PIMA Community College, is higher education ready for the impacts of the 4 superpowers? Let's go on to the next slide, Nick. So another important thing we pay attention to is what are learner preferences these days? What's most important to them? So please take a moment to respond to this question. Which learner methods or programs are preferred by students? So as you can see, without a doubt, folks believe it's in-person college or university. with online coming in and apprenticeships kind of going back and forth as part of that. And please continue to submit your responses, but I'm going to go ahead and provide a perspective on this that comes from one of our important educational partners, Strata. So Nick, can you go on to the next slide? As you can see here, individuals were asked a simple question. If you had $5,000 available to invest in your future education or training, where would you prefer to spend it? Well, majority of folks, 26%, said online college or university, and then followed by a work-based learning experience, whether it was apprenticeship or internship, then online community college. And then as you see, it starts to trail off with in-person colleges and universities, community colleges. So what does this tell us about today's state of education, as well as into the future? And it's important to keep this in perspective. Pre-pandemic, the areas in which colleges and universities were growing the most was not in person. It was, or it is, online. And then when you fast forward into the pandemic, obviously, you know, that skews the data, but it also reveals some interesting things. Coursera, edX, those MOOC companies, they experienced explosive growth. I'll just cite, and this is off the top of my head, but I believe Coursera had a 600% increase in enrollment. Which college or university could even come close to saying the same thing? And I think there's a reality there. I'm not saying that online is the way to go, but what I'm saying is we need to pay attention to the reality and what our learners are telling us as we go forward. And in the state of Arizona, we have some of the largest online players in the state, in the country. ASU Online, Southern New Hampshire University is in our state, Phoenix University, Grand Canyon University, the recent acquisition by the University of Arizona. So as you can see, this online piece is not going to go away. Question is, what makes sense for Pima Community College and how we support our learners in our community? And we recognize not all of our students are going to be ready to go into that universe, but at some point we have to also prepare them to be able to leverage the power of that form of education. So Nick, let's go to the next slide. And let me just close out with just the following comments. So I didn't share a piece around demographics, as I mentioned, but if you look at the demographic shifts that are happening across the country, there's this phrase that we use, and it's called birth dearth. It is very real. The formative years populations, the folks who are going through our K through 12 system, we are expecting to see declining enrollments starting to really take hold when we get to 2025. It will trail off for a period of time. A lot of that has to do with the Great Recession, where families were having less births at that time. And so we're going to start feeling the impacts of that reality. So let me just close with the following question. What world-class gift do we want to leave our students, our learners, our community? And this will be important as you think about the mission fulfillment framework. How do we center our purpose? How do we center our why, our vision, our mission, and the behaviors that will guide the focus of our great institution going forward for our community? Thank you very much. I'll turn it back over to you, Nick.
All right, that's great. Chancellor Lambert, thank you for your comments. And thank you for these framing introduction. As we think about the purpose of the institution, the mission, we have to keep in mind the competitive landscape within which we exist, the needs of our students to ensure they're ready to be competitive and to be hired within the changing environment in which we live. And so these are really important things, and please keep them in mind as we move forward through the discussion. Now it's time, though, for us to get started on our conversation. Now, if you check the YouTube chat, you will find that a link has been posted by different members of my team and others. Now, I understand that YouTube is not being entirely cooperative in the chat in terms of letting that be an active link, but you can use copy and paste to drop that into a browser window to open up the document. Now, we will share all of the statements through the Menti slides today, but we're sharing this additional resource so that in case you need it for improved visibility, so you can read those statements a little bit easier. But if you have problems accessing that, don't worry, we'll share all the statements with you directly as well. All right, so I'm going to give you a little bit of background, and then I'm going to hand you over to my co-presenter today, who will start the conversation around the purpose of the institution. Now, PIMA's current mission fulfillment framework has been in place for approximately 5 years. For those of you familiar with the recent history of the institution, we developed this at the time when we were working on addressing some of the weaknesses identified by the Higher Learning Commission. And what we're doing now is taking time for a comprehensive review because we want to ensure that the framework represents PIMA today, that it fully captures the mission of the institution and our reason for existing. And while we could say that these are just statements, what we're working to do here is make these very actionable, make them very memorable. And I know that that's something that we will talk about more as we go through this morning. So the current framework is comprised of a vision, mission, core themes, of which we have 7, objectives, of which we have 19, values, and a set of key performance indicators. And it's a lengthy set of KPIs because we have different metrics associated with each of the objectives. So it's a fairly sizable framework currently. It's accessible on our website should you wish to take a look. And some of the feedback we've had in the time that this framework has been in place is that it is very long, it is hard to remember, and that it's really more complex than needed. And we could discuss why it's more complex and why so many different elements are in there. But what we want to do this time around is keep the critical elements, those things that are most important in terms of how we serve our community, but work to simplify this. And without losing that core focus. And that's really why we need your input. We have draft statements, which we will share with you, but we want your input. We need to hear from all of you to see if you agree with these statements. Is there something we have missed? And this is really a primary opportunity you will have to provide input. So we're a fair way into a comprehensive review. This has included work by the strategic planning team from 2019 through to present. We had an administrator retreat in the summer of 2019, and also some of you may have been able to join us for a series of open forums we ran at PIMA sites in February of last year. This was also a topic we talked about at the Futures Conference last year. And most recently, on Monday of this week, there was a governing board study session where we shared the draft statements. And we have made some adjustments between Monday and today. So what you're seeing today is the very latest and greatest iteration of these statements. But to be clear to everybody, these are still drafts. The intention today is to gather your input, and we will make adjustments and revisions based upon it. I want to give special mention to the members of the strategic planning team who've been working extremely hard on this work. We have a very diverse group of people involved in this team. We have students, faculty members, staff members, and administrators. And my personal thanks to every single person listed here for their work as we've been developing this. Now, at this point, it is my pleasure to hand you over to my co-chair of the strategic planning team, who will lead us through the discussion on the first 2 statements in the framework. And for this, I hand you over to Dr. Anthony Sovak.
Hey, it's me. Thanks, Nick. As Nick had mentioned, we gave the same show on Monday night to the governing board. But even if you attended there, it will be surprising and amazing because we've changed some of the statements. And so the way we organized it is I think we're going to put our strongest foot forward. So statements that there seems to be some consensus about so far first, and then later on, we're going to get to the ones that are still a little, we're still kind of formulating. That being said, everything here is still a draft. And so all of our comments and the comments of the community members and the board members and employees, we're still going to work that together and take that back and do some wordsmithing in the background. So just to kind of go over a couple of things first, in the new framework, we have a purpose statement, which I like to say is the why. The why are we here? Why does PIMA exist? Why is PCC an organization that does exist in the community? Our mission is, what are we doing as an institution? Our behaviors are, how are we doing it? And our vision is, where are we going? And that vision statement is really not meant to be something that, not answered like, are going to go shopping. Where are we going to go shopping? We're going to go shopping over there, but more like an existential, where the state that you never really get to, like the ideal, Aristotelian state, Platonic form of the college. What would be that ideal where? And so that's obviously the one that's coming last. That's the one that probably we need the most thinking about today. So without further, and then of course, key performance indicators will hold us accountable to all of the things above that. And so that is also after we kind of flush out these 4 top ones, then we'll start working on those bottom ones. So let's get started on the purpose. So purpose, our why. Why are we here? Why are we college? Why ought we be here? And for that, we have transforming lives through affordable education. So on Monday, this was transforming lives through education. We've added affordable because there was definitely a piece missing there. And so we wanted to ask you what you thought about this one. Transforming lives through affordable education. Do you like the statement? Yes, a no, a neutral. And I know there's a delay, so we're going to fill some of the space in the 30-second delay by telling you interesting things, right? Aren't we? Isn't that the plan, Nick? Aztec Resource Centers. The college is working toward a sustainable staffing solution for the ARCs, which supply free food and other necessities to PIMA students in need. Sincerest thanks to faculty member Rachel Lord and academic director Kelly Rose, and to the staff and student volunteers for furthering this important resource. Checking in, we've got, do you like? 62 yes, 7 no, 14 neutral. Our cap has been about 100 or something, right, Nick? Something like that. Well, we're getting there. And so I think maybe we'll move on. You keep filling those buttons because we will come back. So if you can keep clicking, but I think the next one may give us some time to capture some comments for those who like it, for those who felt neutral about it. And then, there were a few of you who didn't like it, and perhaps you can express why here. And to fill our time, I'm going to tell us another cool thing. PIMA Community College Adult Basic Education for College and Careers iBest initiative is one of only 4 programs in the U.S. to be recognized September 22nd at the Advancing Innovation in Adult Education Showcase. PIMA is being honored for its integrated basic education skills training iBest program, in which adult learners attain a GED while they simultaneously earn college credits leading to degrees or industry recognized credentials in growing sectors of the economy.
And something I might add here, Anthony, if you don't mind, as people are submitting their comments here, one of the things that's important to us is get a sense of the scale of input behind particular things. If somebody has entered a comment you would like to share, but you feel strongly about it, please enter that here as well. Because it's important for us to know, it's just like, okay, is it a couple people that feel something is it particularly important, or is it 50 people that feel that? That will help us know the key things we really need to focus on as we make adjustments to the statements.
Right, yeah. Some people like the shortness, but think it's vague. Others like the short and the sweet, and there's 3 main messages. We've got add inclusive. I saw affordable for who. And then some folks don't like affordable, which is where we started, and I understand. Yeah, transforming lives may be a bit of an overreach. Creates a sense of statement and opportunity and equity, correct, right? And so one of the interesting things about this is also these statements kind of need to work together, right? So we want to make sure that our why, and our what, and our how, and our where, right? They aren't all just kind of repeats of the same 4 statements, and so that they're all seen together. And that's kind of one of the more challenging things about workshopping in Zoom that I've found. Excellent, good feedback. And then I'm still going to give you a little more time. I have one more tidbit to share while you continue entering your thoughts about the purpose statement. Brandon Youngbatham, a digital arts instructor. Brandon created a virtual classroom for his students who are learning digital gaming, a hard skill, while becoming better communicators, collaborators, and problem solvers, soft skills, all in a fun virtual setting. He has made the classroom open source so that anyone inside or outside of Pima can use it. As of August, a dance instructor and a grade school teacher have taken advantage of the opportunity. Brandon represents a mindset we need to cultivate at Pima. Virtual learning has to be leveraged to give students the education they need. Cool. Many thanks to whoever provided me with a list of things to say, which is great. Great, good feedback. Do we want to move forward, Nick? So thank you for the comments on the purpose, and we're going to be moving on to mission, which is our what. What is Pima Community College today? What services do we provide, and to whom do we provide those services? So our draft statement here is a little bit longer. You may notice the purpose was short, sweet. We want to remember it. We do want this aspect of memorability, or the ability to recall it, to kind of understand it. One of the weaknesses of the old framework was, there were so many values and things that, I remember I tried to come up with an acronym at the beginning of the work to try and remember it, and I couldn't do it, or at least it hasn't stuck around here. So the essence of the mission here is empower every student every day for every goal. And then we have that's the short version. Then we have the longer version. As an open admissions community college within the diverse setting of Pima County, PCC provides comprehensive and flexible lifelong learning opportunities to promote student success and to empower every student every day for every goal. Now, if you're wondering what those every student, every day, every goal means, we've broken those out. Every student, we commit to meeting the diverse needs of every person who seeks to further themselves through education. Every day, we strive for excellence in teaching and support services to ensure that all of our students experience a welcoming and supportive environment that enhances their education. Every goal, we align our programs and services with meaningful careers, quality educational pathways, and equity-driven practices to empower students to succeed in their college and career goals. Now, we're about to ask you if you like this mission statement, and trying to keep in mind this is the answer to the what. What are we? What are we today? What is PCC today? What services do we provide, and to whom do we provide those services? So with that context, let's go ahead and say, do you like this? Short, yes, no, maybe. So as part of our intermission fun facts about Pima, the Applied Technology Division received a $2.5 million gift from the Thomas R. Brown Family Foundation to expand Industry 4.0 offerings and create an unmanned aerial vehicle UAV drone program. That I did not know until just now. Looks like we got some yeses, some neutrals, and some nos. I always kind of look at the neutrals and the no's kind of together, Nick, in a way, because maybe some people are just being polite. They're like, I know you worked hard, but I really don't like it, so I'm going to go neutral on that. One more fact, and then we're going to move on. The nursing assistant and caregiver courses have been expanded to Nogales, Arizona, Sells, Arizona, and Sahuarita, Arizona to provide entry-level healthcare credentials for employment to underserved individuals in rural communities. Awesome. Okay, I'll give you a few more seconds to push some buttons, but we're about to move to comments on the mission statement. So I'm very excited to hear what you did like about it, what would make you like it, I guess, or you know, what you thought was we didn't quite hit the mark in that mission statement. So for this slide's intermission, we're going to talk a little bit about Pima Community College and Bank of America have announced a partnership to help students of color successfully complete the education and training necessary to enter the workforce, embark on a path to success in Pima County. The bank is awarding $1 million to PCC and to Arizona State University downtown Phoenix as part of this investment, which builds on Bank of America's ongoing work in the region to address the underlying issues facing individuals and communities of color who have been disproportionately impacted by the current health crisis. Awesome. What are your comments on the mission? Add employees. Empower is a vague verb. Short one-liner is great. Inclusive, proactive. Cool. Some no comments. Every day will except weekends or holidays. Very good. Or late at night. That's true. You know, as an online instructor, I might say, well, maybe. I've got another tidbit while we capture a few more comments. Sculptures depicting oversized desert animals created by Pima Community College ceramics faculty Hiro Tashima and former Pima instructor Jason Butler are being installed as part of Pima County's Valencia Road, Wade Road to Ahaway Improvement Project. That's awesome. I want to go see them. Cool. Yeah, just reading some comments as they're coming in. Just going to give it a little more time. I've got one more fact to read, and then we're going to move on to the next slide. Pima Community College is part of a statewide consortium that will work to increase access to cloud computing education to thousands of students in schools across Arizona. This initiative aims to train and certify 5,000 students for entry-level cloud computing careers by June 2022, with continued long-term investments in technical skills training for Arizonans. The new curriculum will begin at Pima in the summer of 2021. Awesome. A lot of folks wanting to make it more brief. I hear that. I also have been a part of a process where it started small and we got bigger. So maybe it might be time to bring the scalpel back to it, Nick. Although some folks do like the long and the short version, I can't read them all now, but there were some folks who liked it to the point here. Some like Empower, others think that it's creating the wrong dynamic in the comment section here. Curious. Excellent. Well, thanks so much. We're going to read these a little more carefully when we have more time. I think we're going to move on to the next slide, though. Okay. So here we're talking about a student or learner, because we've had some discussion about, in the previous one, we talked about every student. And so one of the things that have come up in our conversations is, ought we use the word student or ought we use the word learner? And this may be a bit wordsmithy, but there is some explanation here necessary for why we might be considering learner. One is the relationship with educators. Students are employees expected to obediently follow instructions. And again, these are some of the reasons we might be making these clarifications. So if you feel similarly, we'll ask you for your comments to kind of agree or disagree, or give us another definition. Learners are citizens with a vested interest in the learning in the learning society. As opposed to the relationship with peers, students are competitors, where learners are collaborators. And motivation. Students are culturally obliged to work for the teacher and for quote unquote compensation, whereas learners are motivated by an understood and realized value in their work, especially when it is valuable to others. This is student or learner from Open Colleges. Sorry, another couple of distinctions that they make. Compensation. Students expect institution to find grades as gateways to college and a good job. Learners have a sense of ongoing accomplishment that is not delivered but earned, and not symbolic but tangible and valuable, and investment. Mode of operations. Students are compliant, group discipline, objective oriented, and trainable, whereas learners are preserving, self-disciplined, group goal and product oriented, resourceful, and learning in order to produce and accomplish rather than simply achieve learning. Why? Students are compelled, learners are curious. Now, with those things in mind, do you prefer in the mission statement student or learner, or no preference? And again, the previous two slides, that was one perspective of the difference between student and learner, and perhaps you disagree with their assessment at Open College, and that's perfectly fine. We'd like to hear from you which one you're preferring, so we can get a better sense of which one to use in the mission statement. Oh, sorry, I've got more things to say, don't I? So this one's going to be a shorter one, but I do have one thing to share. The new Automotive Technology and Innovation Center is on schedule to be completed during the spring 2021 semester. The 50,000 square foot facility will allow the automotive program to serve more students and integrate an original equipment manufacturer that's OEM component into its offerings. The program is currently working with Chrysler, Subaru, Ford, and others to enhance or establish manufacturer-specific training. Well, that's excellent. Got 98, hoping for a couple more if we can. Student, learner, no preference. These would be a strong indication for learner here. Excellent. See, this may also reflect one of the challenges in crafting this statement. We are a community college, and we are, we have students who come here for transfer goals, but students who come here for workforce goals, and sometimes the language of one seems to exclude the other, if that makes sense, right? Some people may see themselves more as learners than as students, whereas then, if we pick learner, maybe the folks who are here for traditional academic might feel put out. And so there's a tough balancing act. And the goal here isn't to put out anyone, but to capture statements that, reflect who we are and can help us create a good plan to get to where we need to be. Excellent. And we're going to be moving on to behaviors in a few seconds here, but thank you for your input.
All right, thank you everybody for your comments so far. This is great. I've been watching the comments come in. I really like using Menti. It's great to be able to read through your opinions and thoughts about this in your own words. Now it's time for us to move on to the third element in this mission fulfillment framework, and these are the behaviors. Now the behaviors are really our how. So as we fulfill our mission and work towards the vision of the institution, how do we engage in that work? So a way to think about this is, what are the behaviors that we model that fundamentally reflect the experience our students, the community, and our colleagues can and should expect from us? Now, in the right place, so it'll advance for me. There we go. So this is a relatively long section. There are a couple of different ways we thought about approaching this. The approach that has been preferred with a planning team as an effort to make these more manageable, you will note that as we look down these behaviors, it spells out choices. We all have choices in terms of how we engage in our work. And so we set it up this way to kind of make these a little bit more memorable, but we realize they're long and detailed. Now I want to contrast these with the values that we have in the current system. We've switched from calling these values to calling them behaviors, because we want this to be very action focused. We don't want this to be something very static that sits on a shelf that we never think about, but we want these to be active statements that encourage all of us who work at the institution to kind of do these things and leverage these approaches. Now I'm going to read through some of the opening to this, but Anthony and I will trade off as we go through this. So we champion these behaviors that exemplify the spirit of our college to foster a compassionate, productive educational environment for our whole community. Each member of the college community is encouraged to commit to equity and social justice, meet each student where they are, and seek to improve equity in our community through every decision that we make.
Great. Yeah, thanks. And I might suggest that, if you've got a piece of paper or a little notepad and you want to save a comment as we're reading them for the slide, for the next slide, please do. But the next behavior that we encourage, every member of the college community is encouraged to have frank, open conversations and give each other the benefit of the doubt. Act earnestly, ethically, and value integrity in everything we do.
Then we have open up to change, an endeavor to serve our students and the community by soliciting, valuing, and using their input.
Innovate, actively seek new ways of serving our students and bring creativity to everything we do. Do not be afraid to take risks.
Challenge our processes, assumptions, and the status quo to remove barriers and find more efficient ways to operate.
Evaluate our effectiveness, assess outcomes regularly to champion what is proven to work well, and direct resources to the areas in greatest need of improvement.
And then last but not least, we have serve. Provide outstanding service to our students, the community, and each other. Work closely with employees, employers, corporate and nonprofit partners, schools, and government agencies in the service of our students. So those are the behaviors that we have drafted and prepared. And so we very much want to hear your input on these. And Anthony, would you like to lead us on this discussion?
I will read the next slide. Yes. So do you agree that these are important behaviors for PCC? Now, I get that we had all of choices, but, in general, are these the ones? Neutral might be a good way to go if you think yes, some, no others, but there will be time to comment specifically on that. And again, because of the timing delay, I do have some things to kind of read for us, although I think I maybe used up all the mission ones. We don't have any behavior ones. Can I use a vision one? I'm going to use a vision one. Allied Health Center of Excellence. In November, the board approved a $23.5 million project to renovate buildings D, H, and J and expand space for health-related programs from 81,000 to 110,500 square feet. Also, the completion at the end of 2020 of 4 simulation bays has quadrupled student capacity in allied health disciplines. Awesome. We got 68 yes, 14 neutral, and no no's. That's our strongest. I mean, I maybe jinxed it just now, but that's excellent. It's good to see that, you know, so many are yes, and, you know, some are neutral, sure, but this is good consensus here. I only see 86, so I want to give some folks a chance to respond, especially because of the delay. So I'll stand silently and stare at my computer camera. Hello, camera. All right, we're almost at 100. I think we got the feedback we need here, so I think we will move on, if you agree, Nick. Now we're going to ask what your comment on these what are your comments on these behaviors? Again, choices. Commit to equity and social justice, have frank, open conversations and give each other the benefit of the doubt, open up to change and endeavor to serve our students and community by soliciting, valuing, and using their input, innovate, challenge our process assumptions in the status quo, evaluate our effectiveness, and serve. So those were the short versions of choices. Cool. The acronym structure is hokey. That's the one thing I thought too. However, it was what I will just to say to address it and explain our thinking, like that was something we thought of, but there was a lot of things we were trying to get into a list of behaviors, right? And we've seen different institutions do it in different way. I want you to know that we did not pick a word that we thought was good and then try and find behaviors for it. But when we tried to boil them all down and say, what are the things that really consistently came up during mission review sessions, and Nick and I, one of the last things we did pre-COVID was go on an all college tour and every site, and we did a review of the old structure. And a lot of these behaviors, like have frank, open conversations and give each other the benefit of the doubt, came up at almost all of them, and some of the other ones did too. And so when we really boiled them down, at a certain point, you know, you're trying to take something out of the recipe. So yeah, I do hear it, but and I had a similar thought, but it's grown on me a little bit, I will say. Don't like customer service language, all right? Behaviors instead of values. Don't like it. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. I think the criticism we're trying to address in that change, when we're changing from values to behaviors, isn't to try and infantilize anyone necessarily, but because values may say, hey, I value this, but I'm just going to go do something else, right? I was trying to turn it into actions. And I think the acronym, as hokey as it might be, choices is say, you know, it is a choice, right? It is a choice to do these things in this way. And we're encouraging folks to choose that, I guess. I don't know. I'm not necessarily coming down one way or the other. I'm just trying to explain the thought processes as we do it. As I say, this is, you know, whatever feedback you've got, however these strike you, that's helpful for us as we go forward. Excellent. I haven't been paying attention to our timer, Nick. Should we give some more time? Looks like the comments are coming in still. We're at 80. The risk of running through all of our talking points to fill the 30-second delay space. I'm going to give us some more information on one of our centers of excellence. The Advanced Manufacturing Building in the Applied Technology Center of Excellence will feature an idea lab makerspace. Additionally, the 3-story building will feature work pods to house industry-sponsored projects designed, fabricated, and tested by PIMA students and students in the U of A's School of Engineering as part of the UA's Design Day Senior Capstone class in ENGR 498. The Advanced Manufacturing Building is on schedule to be completed in summer 2022. Which just reminds me that I have not been very many places in Tucson in the last year. And so every time I go somewhere new, whether I'm, just going out for a drive to escape the quarantine lockdown blues or running an errand, it's just very surprising. I'm never going to remember what choices stand for. Fair enough. Sorry, that one made me laugh. Great choice. Make PIMA a good place to work. I like choices. See, we've got people on both sides here. Excellent. So we're about 93. Do you want to give it a few more minutes, Nick, or you want to move along?
I think we can move along now. Take a look at the next statement.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for your comments and your input on this so far. It's great. I could just stand here reading this all day. And the comment about spelling out choices being kind of hokey, I kind of agree with you, and I'm very 50-50 on that. I feel I have to confess I came up with the idea in the first place, and I couldn't really decide whether I was brave enough to bring it forward to the planning team, because I was just like, I'd look at it one day, oh, I like it. I'd look at it the next day, oh, don't like it. So your input on that is really good today as we figure out.
And to be fair, Nick, the comments have fallen on both sides of the spectrum. Some folks really like the fact that it organizes the list of behaviors, and others just thinks it comes off as cheesy. And so there's that risk if we end up going that way. I do consider myself to be a little hokey to begin with, so I think it might be a fine fit for me. But I definitely I'm hearing the feedback on both sides here. So
absolutely, and we'll just pause here for a moment, because for those of you who haven't commented specifically on that use of choices, if you have a strong feeling one way or another, let's take just a moment to give you a chance to chime in here, because as I mentioned before, we'll be looking at the number of comments. If we hear from 10 people one way and 20 people the other way, we're probably going to go in the direction of the 20. So I want to make sure you will get your chance to comment.
Yeah, and we're also doing good time, so we've got the time to get specific feedback on that particular element.
Yeah. So please, let's take a little bit. We'll take just another minute so you can chime in if you'd like to. And also, just so you know, while we're using Menti as a primary input through the event today, we'll also be copying all of the comments out of the chat. So as we move forward, if you think of something you wish you'd said about one of the statements that we've moved on from, please feel free to put that comment in the chat. And members of the STAR team who are on the line at the moment in the chat, please make sure you copy all of those comments out so we have a record of it.
Yeah, and which is also to say there will be, one of the last things we'll talk about is other times for input, although we will be focusing on different things. If you're sitting with this and you change your mind on choices one way or the other, you can always email Nick or myself or someone in the strategic planning team on the slide we listed early on, and we're going to take that feedback to heart.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. All right, so let's move along and take a look at our next topic. Okay, so the last item within the framework that we're going to talk about today is the vision. Now, this is our where. Now, when Anthony introduced the new framework earlier, he mentioned key performance indicators. We will be adding those to this system, but that's out of the scope of what we want to talk about today, because we really need to settle on language for these statements before we think meaningfully about how we might measure and hold ourselves accountable to them. So when we think about vision, this is about where we are trying to go as a college. So what is our aspirational future state? And a really important point I should make with this one, this is this should not be an achievable goal. This should be something we're constantly striving to reach. And it should be an ambitious target. This is not a place where we think kind of like very conservatively. This is like, if we had all the resources, all the time, what do we want the college to be like? Now, I'll mention a little bit more about this initiative maybe in a few moments, but one of the ways I've approached this with a strategic planning team is to think about Pima 10 years from now. We have this long-term goal, achieve 60 Pima County. And as you're entering your comments about the vision, I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But within that, we're looking to shift the needle on educational attainment within our community, so that 60% of residents in Pima County within a given age range, 25 through 64, hold some kind of college level credential, whatever that might be, certificate, associate degree, or on through bachelor's degree. And I'm encouraging people, as we think about the vision of the institution, think about the college that has successfully done that. Think about the impact that that would have on the community that we serve. And then think about how you might describe that institution, or think about what it might do next. What kind of language would you want to use? What stands out to you as most important in there? Now, as a note, as included here, this is the least developed section of the draft framework. So your input is important throughout this conversation today, but it's particularly important here. If there are phrases that you think of that you particularly like, if there are particular concepts you would want to see emphasized in the vision, that's really valuable input as we move forward. Now, at the moment, we have 3 options. You'll have the choice to select between these options or something else, and then we'll gather your comments. And I'll tell you a little bit about the background of these different options as we go through them. So option 1, PCC will be the premier community college committed to providing educational pathways that ensure student success and enhance the academic, economic, and cultural vitality of our students and diverse community. This is essentially Pima's current vision statement. It's a little bit of wordsmithing. In the current one, we say we will be a premier community college, and we've shifted it to being the premier community college. But this is essentially straight out of the current framework that's in place. Option 2, PCC will be every Pima County resident's first choice for education and upskilling. This is one of the phrases developed through a recent strategic planning team discussion. We've had a conversation once about the vision. So we as a team haven't gone back and revised these statements as we've thought more about them. But this one captures the intent of the institution to be really the go-to place in Pima County for education needs. Chancellor Lambert spoke earlier about some of the competition we face, but this is about, we are here located in Pima County. We exist to provide education for our community members, though many of our offerings are available outside of our community as well. But this is a phrase that resonated with the group. Now, both of these I would highlight. In the first one, we have the term pathways. In option 2, we have the term upskilling. There's been some discussion about whether these are buzzwords and whether they will really be the words like 3 years, 4 years from now that higher education is using. And so there's a question about the language. Does it resonate with people? Is it going to stand the test of time? Then option 3 we added since the study session on Monday based on some of the input and discussion, partly with the governing board on Monday, but also input from community and other internal groups at the college. And option 3 is, as the premier community college in the United States, PCC will be a catalyst for economic prosperity and growth in our community. So these are 3 options, and whether one of these captures the language that we ultimately end up with, we'll see. But let me move forward and open this up to your input. So here you have the option to give us some feedback on the vision statement you prefer. So vision 1, essentially the current vision statement. Vision 2, vision 3, the new one. Or you might prefer to combine elements from the different statements. So I'll give this a moment for these things to roll in. Now, there's lots of different initiatives and Anthony, thank you for sharing a number of them during the course of the session today about some of the good things going on at PIMA. Another one I would mention, so when we think about our vision, one of the key undertakings at the institution right now is a development of centers of excellence across different areas. Anthony spoke to a couple of these, but let me mention one that's in the area of hospitality leadership. This is under development now with the strategy and design being put together, and it's going to include a refresh of the Aztec Grill, a brand new baking and pastry kitchen, and also the possible addition of a full-service bistro. This is another example of some of the things that we are working to do at the institution to modernize our facilities, make them more relevant. I would comment another development in this area is that we've purchased our first food truck. How cool is that? And this is obviously a really important area. I mean, I, like many people, am not out and about around town very much at the moment during the pandemic, but there are lots of food trucks in operation around Tucson. And they're great options as directions for our students to think about. So it's very exciting that we have our first one. So let me see. So we've had 70, up to 80 responses now. So the most popular of the three statements appears to be Vision 1, but the clear winner at the moment is a preference to combine elements from each of these statements. Let me give it a moment, give time for a little bit more of these things to roll in. And as we do that, let me mention more about Achieve 60. We're going to focus on that in detail in our third Futures Conference event. Achieve 60 is a phenomenal opportunity for PIMA to really bring transformative change to our community. I mentioned before that one of the goals is to ensure that 60% of county residents in that given age range that I mentioned earlier hold some kind of college level credential. It could be any level within the different things I mentioned before or higher. It could be master's or doctorate degrees. But there's another element of that which is really important to mention. It's one of the reasons that I think this is going to be as impactful on our community as it will be. This is 60% of the whole community, but we know it's clear in Census Bureau data when we disaggregate across different diverse populations, including in particular, when we look by race ethnicity, there are different levels of educational attainment across those different groups. And we could talk at length about the different reasons for that, and I won't go into that now. But when Achieve 60 says we want to reach 60% of residents, this is in part the total, but this is specifically for each individual diverse population within our community, and they specifically focus on race ethnicity. And just imagine what that's going to be like for our community and the impact it will have on the diverse students and residents who we support through PIMA Community College. But as I mentioned, we'll talk about that one in more detail at a future event. But please be thinking about that, because we'll be looking broadly for your ideas and your input in how we can make substantial improvements to directly impact our community. So I see we have a similar result to when I was last looking. So 51% of you, 51 people, I apologize, prefer to combine elements from each of these. So let me move us along to the next slide and open this up to your comments. So as you think about comments to enter here, if there's a particular statement that you currently really like, that you think is fully representative of what you want to see, please enter that statement number here. So we have that captured. For those of you, the majority, who specified that you would like to pull in different elements of the different statements, which pieces do you like from these different statements? Because that will help us as we think about the things we might pull together. And if there are things that we simply don't include in the current 3 draft statements, we want to hear about that here as well. So I cannot stress enough how much your input is valued in this, as it has been throughout. And I'm going to be quiet for a moment and just read as these different things come in. And I will also skim through our list to see if there's anything else
Yeah, and just to reiterate, any clues that you can give Nick, myself, or the rest of the strategic planning team into what you meant when you said I want elements of each of these is going to be greatly appreciated in the comments here. We will pore over these. We will use them as in the revisions. So any even if you need to, they can submit multiple times, I think, right, Nick? So even if you can do one, then do the other, that would be very helpful.
Absolutely. And I noticed in here, and another way you can help us. So someone entered option 2, but need a new word for upskilling. Anthony and I have had that conversation. We spent some time looking at that statement, thinking, what word can we use instead of upskilling, which is really going to capture the range of things that we provide in terms of our offerings. Because of course we have students who come to us who are seeking to earn a certificate for employment. They may want an associate degree, either for employment or potentially to transfer onto one of the universities, either in state or out of state. And then we have individuals who are returning to us to develop different career skills as they move forward. So for example, one way to think about that. So let's say a student graduates from us this year with an associate's degree in a business related area. Well, 5 years from now, they may be interested in, for example, pursuing a project management professional certificate. Or it could apply in different fields where there are industry recognized credentials or particular skills they need to develop to help them further advance. And with that upskilling word, we kind of want to try and capture so many different things. So if you have specific ideas for that, it would be great to put your ideas in here. So Premiere needs to remain. Okay. Seen quite a bit for that. Option 3 is terrific. That's good. But we need to add the educational learning component. Oh, great. Thank you, the person who put that comment in there, giving us specific language we can look at. That's great.
So if I could, Nick, we just got an email from Ken Hosto, the director of ADR. So if anyone's having trouble viewing the colors on this presentation, if you can reach out to Nick or myself, or even Ken, we can provide this in a different contrast and solicit your input in a different way. Going forward, we're going to take that into consideration and make an adjustment so that it will be easier to see for folks.
Yeah, and something I can mention for that. So if any of you are having challenges with a color scheme, our apologies for that. Something we will be posting to our website relatively soon, actually on the same page where the draft statements are currently posted, is a survey. So that if you wish to, you can look through the PDF version of these statements, or we can share them electronically, whatever works best for you, through email or some other means. And you can fill out that survey and provide input that way. We are really serious about having as many routes for you all to give your input. And so there will be that option available to you as well. Let's see. All right, so instead of upskilling, how about expanding? Upskilling sets my teeth on edge. Oh no.
I understand. I mean, if I understand that, and if you have other suggestions, I think the emphasis is on, I mean, we talked about this as a hub, though I think that's been beaten out of me, but Community College, not as a hub, but just as a, the one and done academic adventure, I think is not where we're going in the future. And maybe that's a debate point. But it seems to me, a lot of the vision work we've talked about with folks is that, coming to PIMA isn't something you're going to do just for a credential. I mean, I spent my first year in college in Pima Community College, obviously back as an employee, but I also take classes here, and I know folks who have degrees who want to take classes here for personal enrichment. And so to capture that idea that it's a place you're going to return to, I would agree that upskilling seems workforce centric and buzzwordy at times, but I'm also not sure what else that we could put in there. And maybe the whole framework needs to change, but any suggestions you have for it are really appreciated.
Mm-hmm. I note some language coming through here. An engine for equitable economic development. interesting phrasing. This is great. Mentioning Pima County is important. And it's interesting, I'm watching the different comments about Premiere. I see some love for the use of the word Premiere and some people going, no, not Premiere. And again, please chime in on that one, whichever direction your preference is, so we can get a sense of the counts across these different leanings of which you like and which you don't. And I'll also note now, while we have a survey posted about the current statements, we will be carefully going through all of the input you've provided today and the survey responses. And we will post updated statements to the website and release that they're available so you can take another look at this before this goes forward for approval. And as a note, while the strategic planning team is taking care of the drafting of these statements and going through the input and thinking about the wording, these statements will ultimately go forward to the college's governing board for final review and adoption. Okay. All right. Really good input. I could stand here reading these all day, but it's probably time for us to move on to our kind of wrap up topics and the important job of gathering your contact information so we can the
if I could, Nick, I just got a beep beep text message update that the OER savings for spring has totaled $635,000 college-wide, bringing our total savings for students over $6 million for the Open Education Resource Initiative. Thank you, Michael Amick, for sending me a blast out here on the Futures Conference. And didn't mean to interrupt too much,
that's great.
I thought that was worth sharing.
Absolutely it is. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with that initiative, for many of the courses offered at Pima now, supported partially through grants and this initiative that's taking on a life of its own, for many of the classes at Pima now, we use open source textbooks and other resources. And textbook costs are very significant for students. It's quite incredible how much some of these books cost for some of the classes that we offer. And so those figures that Anthony just shared, the savings that how students have seen through the college's gradual migration to these open educational resources. And I mean, it's just phenomenal. As a community college serving this community, we talked about affordability earlier in the purpose statement. This is one of the ways in which we can improve access to education by making these courses more affordable through the use of these open resources.
Yeah, and understand, of course, that open resources has nothing to do with the quality. The same people are writing the textbooks. You know, professors wrote the textbooks, but then they just sold the license to the textbook company who then charged the student. In this model, Pima itself, Pima Community College, is investing resources to create essentially their own licensed textbook that then is then open, or adapting those written by others who licensed it openly. So the material, again, comes from the same people. It's just there's no perennial fee going to a big publisher, which may not be great news for big publishers, but it's excellent news for our students.
Absolutely. All right, good. Okay, wonderful input on this. I'm going to move us along now, I think. Let's see. Okay, all right. So with the discussion of the vision statement, that brings us to the end of the statements on which we want to gather your input today, though we have a couple of other pieces, so please don't leave us yet. I do want to share the dates for the next Futures Conference events. So as I mentioned at the very beginning, this is the first of 4 events. On March the 11th, we will meet for 2 hours to talk about community needs for the next 5 to 6 years. On March the 22nd, we'll be talking about long-term priorities, and we'll dig in more detail into Achieve 60 Pima County so we can gather your input at both of those events about the things that are important to you in the short term, and your ideas and your thoughts about how we engage in some of these longer term priorities that we have. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but for Achieve 60, that has a timeline where we're seeking to reach that goal by 2030. So we have 9 years, which is both a long time and not very long at all, given the scope of the challenge that we have set ourselves. So I very much look forward to hearing your ideas on the 22nd as we build out our plan to make significant progress towards that end goal. Then on April the 16th, we will be releasing our draft plan and inviting your input so we can take a look, we can make adjustments, and this will be done in advance of us submitting the plan to the governing board, which is intended to happen in May of this year. So I hope you'll all be able to attend and join us for this particular event. And now as we move forward into the thank yous and some of the wrap up, I will hand you back to Anthony.
Hey, it's me again. Thanks to everyone, the strategic planning team, the PCC TV staff, information technology staff, access and disability resources staff, our external relations staff, and the strategy, analytics, and research staff who have been hanging out with you in the YouTube comment section this whole time. There's a lot of work. I mean, Nick and I are the ones voted under the bus every single time to come talk to you, but there are a lot of people behind the scenes working, meeting with us and helping make this a reality. So I wanted to thank all of them. But before we wrap up, we are going to ask you for some feedback and then talk and to submit the names for the prize draw. When Nick did talk about prizes being available from the Pima Foundation, and thank you to them for providing the prizes. So I think the first piece of feedback we're going to ask is about the use of the survey tool Menti during this event. Did you enjoy using Menti during the event, even though there's a 30-second delay on the YouTube, and we do have the feedback about the color scheme, which we're going to address before the next event. But you like it, you don't like it, feel kind of neutral about it. I'm very excited for the community of the next couple ones. I feel like I love getting feedback about the framework, but I feel like I've been stuck in wordsmith jail with Nick sometimes with this going back. So I'm looking forward to the next one where we're going to get feedback from the community about what do you need from us, directly listening to the things that, need to inform our plan, need to inform what we're doing from the community that we serve. And I also think the Achieve 60 is a tremendously ambitious goal, especially when you want to do it right. One of the things we talk about sometimes in the strategic planning group is all the ways we could do that wrongly and end up giving people a credential that doesn't matter. And that's obviously not our goal. We're trying to do that the right way, because we think if we try to do it the right way and fail, we'll still end up doing a really, really good service to the community. If we make it 2/3 of the way there, or something like that. What's the saying? Shoot for the moon. Even if you fail, you'll be near the stars. Even though I think astronomically that's not correct. Poetically, it is. So we're liking Menti. That's great. What's the next thing? Oh, any comments that you would like to share? I guess overall about the feedback here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank me. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. I have to be here. I'm the co-chair. You all chosen to spend your time and give us the feedback. We greatly appreciate it. I want to give a special thank you to the students in attendance and the community members for coming in. Sometimes it's hard to hear about these events, or if you're watching this later, or if you know people who would have liked to have been here to give us our feedback and you want to share this link once we posted it in the YouTube channel, I really would appreciate that also. Email to Nick. Yes, send the emails to Nick. She will forward them to me. But
absolutely. And for members of the STAR team who are hanging out in the chat, please feel free to put my email address in the chat so everyone has access to that.
Yes, I think we're also going to ask them to put the link to the survey, right?
Yeah, the final survey where you can win a prize, that will also get posted to the chat. We have that one on the slide as well, because that one's also quite important.
Perfect.
And I agree. A wonderful co-chair. Special mention to Anthony. You've done a huge amount of work on this. So thank you, Anthony.
Oh, thanks. Thank you, folks. I just, turn it on and start talking until they tell me to stop. This is great. Yep, and Dan's going to add the links in the description when we stop streaming. Thank you so much, Dan Pinard for PCC TV, who celebrating, is it 20 years, I think, at Pima Community College, Dan? That's what LinkedIn told me. That's what I congratulated on him. Thank you so much for being here for 20 years. You weren't quite here when I was a student, but it was close. Just there you go. Excellent. Yep, we absolutely will adjust things based on the input for sure. Excellent. All right. We got 76, 77. It's hard to tell with what 30 seconds is with the delay and how long people have been on here. And I don't want to move too fast because I want people to have the chance to be able to give their comments. But we'll need more talking points, I think, next time in the delay. So I guess that's another suggestion. If you got anything we should bring up next time when we're talking about the highlights of our students, our faculty, our staff, our institution, or news items that you think are relevant that we should share with the whole college, by all means, let us know. We'll start a list of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Please email those ideas to us because yeah, it's really nice as we transition through these different slides to be able to share the many positives going on at Pima, which some of you may know, some of you may not know. So yeah, email us your ideas and suggestions for that.
All right, well, without further ado, let's head to the last slide. There we go, prizes. We need to know who is here. So we would like to be in touch with you and keep informed of who was here and invite you to the other future conferences and such. So check the YouTube chat for a survey link. The link is http. No, sorry, I'm not going to read that. But it will be posted in the YouTube chat. If you come back afterwards, Dan's also going to put it in the description. PCC employees, I'm sorry, but you are not eligible to win prizes for obvious reasons. However, we still would like to know that you were here. So please, we want them to fill it out, right? Or is this just for the prizes? That's a good question.
It would be great if everyone can fill this out because then we know
Yes.
who's here. But we're only asking for contact information for students and community members for the obvious reason that we need to be able to contact you after.
Yeah, we can't. Right. Yeah, for getting the prize. So employees can't get the prize, unfortunately. However, please fill that out. Randomly select the winners. I'm not sure how they intend to do it, but whenever I need to do a random list, you can actually pull because random number generators are really hard for computers. There's one that's online that pulls a random number based on atmospheric background radiation. And that's probably not random either, but I always liked it enough that when I was randomizing lists of faculty to see who got to pick their first course, that's what I would use, and it seemed to be enough. I don't know how they're going to pick it, but it will be randomly, and they'll call you later today if you were selected. So thank you so much for being here. Please share the link later with your friends, community members, students, people who might be interested, and to give us some feedback on these items. And we'll see you next time.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you being here. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone who is in attendance. I'm going to leave this stream running for about 30 seconds so we can wrap it up on YouTube, and then I'll kill it for everyone. Okay, I am ending the stream for everyone. Thank you very much for your attendance.